Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Italian Grand Prix, round 12 of the 2025 World Championship of season 14 of ALR Gold. It's the Temple of Speed. It's the Italian Grand Prix. 2 tier zones, only 11 turns around this circuit, and of course, and it's going to be the fastest Grand Prix on the calendar, unless it's raining, which it is in the background. Oh, golly gosh. Oh, golly gosh, indeed, then. So goodness gracious me, when we was recording those images a few days ago, that it was sunshine and rainbows. Well, it's not anymore, is it? It is absolutely raining cats and dogs out there. And my word, then the drivers are going to have a very difficult time, because of course you're going to have the minimum of wings, surely, in these even with these conditions, because well, basically because otherwise you'll be in no man's land, won't you, going down into turn one. Drives to the constructor standards looks like this, and Flippy has got a very slender 26-point lead at the moment, and after Medi's impressive performance last time out in the Dutch Grand Prix. Brabbitt 71 points away then. Is it too little too late with only 5 rounds to go after this one? Julian in on 86 points then, with Villiers on that 73. We haven't seen Villiers since the British Grand Prix. Sweet on 64. What a season for Sweet. He's one of my drivers of the season. We've got a Mortal, sadly only racing in a few races this season due to the horrific events going on over in his home country. Kieran on 45 points, 33 for Van Von, and P is complete on top 10. It's all Haas, 9th and 10th position in the championship then. Whilst in the Constructors' Championship, I haven't got my screen sorted, hang on 1 second, and in the Constructors' Championship, Aston Martin lead the way barely in terms of the Constructors, 21 points separate Aston Martin and the Kick Sauber, and then Alpine only 3 points adrift then. It is so close in the Constructors' Championship. Believe it or not, it's not the closest Constructors at the moment because that is in silver, as 1 point separates the top three. Incredible. 82 points separates the Alpine and the Red Bull team, and they're 100 points adrift of the top three. That's incredible, isn't it? Mercedes on at 78 points and 74 for Ferrari and 3 for because they haven't had any drivers represent them in the last 4 or 5 races. McLaren Mercedes on 68 points, 63 points for the Haas team, 25 for Racing Bulls, and the Williams team are currently at the bottom, unfortunately, on 20 points. And in the Constructors, joint Constructors, I say that Alpine have got quite a nice lead now in the joint Constructors, and the gap is 228 points, or 649 points so far. And then Kick Sauber is second, and only 4 points in front of the Red Bull team in the third position. McLaren Mercedes on at 402 points. Who's that going out? Goodness me, there's a queue going out there at the moment. McLaren on 402 points. Then there's 400 points for Aston Martin and Ferrari at 300. And goodness me, there's so many raindrops. It is absolutely raining cats and dogs there. 315 points for Racing Bulls, 277 for the Haas team, Mercedes on 256, and 107 for the Willie team then. Unfortunately, bringing up the rear sadly then. But my goodness me, anyway, enough about that. Then the weather conditions out there are absolutely appalling indeed then. And my word, we got a lot of drivers though going for intermediate tyres then. Is that going to be a mistake or not? Well, that remains to be seen. This is horrific condition out there. This is what is going to... Whoa, my goodness me. That's a very slivery Hassa out of Parabolica or the Mercati Alvaretto curve then. But my word, then these drivers are certainly going to earn the cut of their jib here tonight then. It is Van Von to start as a qualifying session of 18 minutes and to get the grid formed up then from front to back. Good evening to you, Dawson. And also there's rain afoot, says Katie as well, absolutely. So Van Von then is going to be the first driver on circuit. Van Von's qualifying performance this season has been pretty impressive, but it's the race trim where he has really struggled, which is why he's down in 9th in the World Drivers' Championship. Coming into the Delia Roger chicane then, not taking too much gravel in, because I think the gravel is going to be quite compact actually, so perhaps that's actually not going to be too bad to run wide then into the first of the 2 Lesbos. Like, goodness me, Van Von is drifting that Haas splendidly well in the second Lesbo. Of course, I once again then get on the power, does not want to be too slippery. I would say that the rear wings are still going to be quite slim, even in these appalling conditions. That's a very slow... Is that a Motorola sponsor sign? I must admit, I didn't even know Motorola's was still a thing. Goodness me. My gosh. Whoa! And Van Von there almost into the kitty litter there, but somehow keeping it out in some very appalling conditions. Wayne says Nosey. Absolutely. It is pretty horrific. Some need Van Von with a beautiful helmet now. You can see, look at the corrections that he's doing on the steering wheel for Van Von across the line then and going faster so far. So we have got, there's only a few drivers on wet tyres. Most of the field is on the intermediate tyres. Of course, that is the in-between tyres between the slick and the full wet weather tyres. The intermediate tyres can disperse, is it 60 litres of water per second? And currently as it stands, it's Riley Super 7 minutes tonight in the second race, and Ball has gone wet tyres, and that looks to be a mistake at the moment. Kieran, of course, getting his best result last time out in 4th position. Can he get on the podium, though, for Kieran? Because he still is, that podium is still eluding him, and he's going to have to scamper off. We've already lost the bollards into the first chicane, unfortunately. I wouldn't be surprised if Farf was in a bad mood and made it rain. Farf always makes it rain when I'm around. Many goes into third fastest there. Well, just as I say, that Bunce goes faster still then, as we got Red Bull in all their sport in white liveries here this weekend. Oh, goodness me. And I think that was one of the very slow racing bulls and the sister racing bull. Unfortunately, not helping the big brother team there, Ultimate Beast, going into fourth position there. Ultimate Beast there, and coming off the back of it, I think his best result of his career in gold there was sixth position last time out there for Ultimate Beast. And can he get higher up the field than in the McLaren Mercedes? Goodness me, there's cars all over the show here. Is this going to be the best of the wet weather conditions there, or is drivers just trying to get a feel of the circuit there? Van Von is still fast at the moment, and Emerson is in a very dizzying heights of seventh position. Brabant is down in eighth position with Nameless and ninth, returning. It was his first time that he missed a race last time out. Nameless back in the saddle. As Charles has gone 10th position there. Markey is moved himself up into 7th position. This is going to be an all-action pack. An all-action-packed qualifying session there, especially if the rain is coming down as it is at the moment there, as Kieran is recovering back into the garage and probably into the warmth of... probably to the warmth of the garage as well. On board with Revit then. Revit has only made one start in his ALR career, and guess what? That was a second position there for Revit. His last start was actually at the Australian Grand Prix, and of course it's been off to university, I believe. And so Revit back in here, and of course hoping to get another podium then in the Ferrari. As I mentioned, of course, once again Ferrari have got no full-time drivers, which means that Ferrari once again, as Julian has gone fast there by 200 of a second. Revit, goodness me, he is revving it out of the parabolica across the line, and Revit goes fifth fastest in the Ferrari, and of course he is going to be a local hero tonight. What was I going to say there? Goodness me, I didn't call him a hoe, I swear. Flipping then out circling the championship leader, starting his lap now, but that is 2 laps on the board there for Flippy, but it's currently no qualifying time up there at this moment then. It's just like driving on the M6 then, says Real Ashton. Good evening to you, my good squire. How the final turn then for Legends there, of course, as Van Bott has gone faster still, as displaces Julian as Legends up into a superb third position. Great stuff indeed, a good qualifying start then for Legends and for Julian and for Van Bott as well. Kieran is one of only a few drivers that has come into the pit so far, because normally the best way to tackle a wet qualifying session is just to fuel the car up, fuel the car with fuel then, and go round and round and round until you. It's all about confidence rather than the weight of the car, I'd say anyway. Oh, I got a big old name said. By the way, happy World Meteor Day then as well. Fantastic. No, Meteor Day? No, then it's World Meteorology Day or something like that anyway. But yes, happy World Meteor, yeah, that one. Flipping then, everyone is now on intermediate tires apart from Beast, who is still on, well, Beast goes fifth fastest there. Yellow flag in the background and qualifying yellow flags we tend to ignore because normally, more often than not, then it's just drivers getting the way. Here comes the championship leader across the line, second fastest there for Flippy. He needs to, after a challenging time in Zandvoort a week ago, Flippy hoping to get back up to the high echelons of the podium places. Delanda going full fast at the moment. Brabant is back into third position now then. So these times now start to tumble. Of course, the best way to dry a F1 track is by using... I think that's the Super GT line there for Brabant. The best way to dry a Formula 1 track is by having the 20 Formula 1 cars and drivers go round in circles and throw the water back up into the sky. Legends back across the line and does not improve. I think that was a bit of a cool down lap there for the Legends as Ultimate Beast there as Uza. Ultimate Beast is going for another time. Goodness me. I don't know what hole he's looking into. It wouldn't be my hole because he wouldn't be able to see the exit. Whoa, gosh, there's Brabant there. I thought he was going to go well off there in the McLaren. He's the only driver on the wet tyres. World Mushroom Day, says Real Ashton. I think there is actually a World Mushroom Day. Is it today? I thought it was, I'm going to be honest, I thought it was like late in the year. Yellow flag out there at the moment as Nameless has gone into full fastest at the moment. Of course, we're starting very early again, aren't we? The gold drivers don't seem to be too concerned about start times, do they? They just want to get on with it, don't they? They're not only fast on the circuit, they're also fast in terms of their, of course, their is it Congeniality? No, what is no? That's the film Benefits Congeniality, isn't it? With Sandra Bullock. Woof woof. Across the line goes Sweet Crown, and fast as air, and the Scuderia the Trofosi are going to be overjoyed with this result. Oh, well, they won't be for much longer because Van Von has found another couple of tenths of a second as the Ferrari B team potentially. Hello to Camera Racer, good evening to you, and €10 is going into my account as well. Last time we heard from Camera, he was not very well then, so hopefully Camera's out of hospital now and recovering nicely. Sweet, they're going into the Delia Roger chicane now, looking a bit worse for wear. Down in 20th position, moment. Kieran going up at the second fastest head. Beast is into the pits now and is thrown on a set of intermediate tyres with just half of the qualifying session to go. Sean has fans chanting in his messages. Oh, I absolutely do. Nice wearing for gingers, I see, says Serious Mushroom. How dare you. I do prefer the rain personally. The UK's had a lot of sunshine lately, which has meant that I've had to stay indoors. I looked outside the window last night and I got sunburn. Sweet, and what can Sweet Crown do? Not Sweet Crown, I apologize. There's too many sweets in this in this lobby, which is why I'm commentating like, because I do love it. I do love some sweets. Hilton there, who's currently in the Ascara chicane. Now we're going to keep an eye on Hilton there. He's coming in 19th on the grid. On there, Sweet across the line. That's much better for the King Sauber, and in front of his teammate as well. Then, so that's a statement of intent for Sweet, who I think has been my driver of the season so far. He's been superb stuff indeed. All good fans, all good thanks. A little weak, but we're racing tomorrow. You're a better man than me, Camera Racer, because I was asked to race last night, but I was in the Emerson Hilton going 6 passes there. Yellow flag in sector 1 there for somewhere. As Riley's on pole position. And remember that Riley, in these similar conditions in the Japanese Grand Prix earlier on this season, got pole position there just as I'm about to finish off my sentence. Benny has gone faster. Of course, the man who is really eating into the championship lead of Flippy at the moment there. So pressure is on there for the championship leader. Where is Flippy? He's down in 9th. Goodness gracious me. Not ideal. Mushroom needs rain in order to grow, especially magic ones there. I need a mushroom to grow as well, or maybe to go faster than it seems like in the real life. But Pease goes 15 fast. He'd be disappointed with that. I'm sure there's more in the locker for Pease, but that's disappointing. Beast has started his lap now. We're going to keep an eye on Beast. And what about Delano? Currently in 11th position. Good stuff indeed. Here's Revan pole position for the Ferrari driver. Absolutely stunning stuff indeed there. Riley is becoming a masterclass in the wet, isn't he? He's doing superbly well. He's basically like the Ayrton Senna of the wet in ALR, isn't he? He's doing supremely well. And goodness me, we could see, look at that dry line there. Of course, Riley then could be reminiscent Ayrton as well in the Donington race back in 1993. It was called the European race, so was it? The one only time the F1 race around Donington. What did it replace? It replaced the track, but I can't remember what track it replaced. Gosh, that's going to really upset me. If anyone can tell me, that would be fantastic. Flippy's gone fast in the first intermediate split time. Delano getting out of the way, so I'm going to stick with the World Championship leader into the first of the two Lesmans. Look, there's a dry line now forming for the Aston Martin car as Kieran's gone fastest, and Kieran has never been on pole position in his ALR Gold career, but of course he's on a lot of pole position in the event league, hasn't he? 4 minutes ago in this qualifying session. If anyone remembers the European qualifying session, which I always state of, oh Flippy, oh no, and that's major peril for Flippy. He's got enough time now. Maybe I'm being a bit too over the top here, but Flippy, that could be costly. Kieran on pole position at the moment. Brabant is down in 15th, but of course 2 of the 3 championship protagonists down into the second half of the grid mode. Markey is in 19th position. The times are going to tumble like a fruit machine here. The European qualifying session in 1999, of course, where Heinz Harald Frentzen for the Jordan Mugen Honda got on pole position there, and potentially we're going to have something like that, as there are so many different pole sitters in that last minute or so. It is incredible stuff. I think David Hill's on pole position with a minute to go, and he dropped down into 7th in the end, and I think Frentzen took it with 15 seconds to go. Markey's sliding there. That's not ideal. Unfortunately, and out of the final turn there for Markey. Can he improve it? He won't be able to improve it, but it is going to be very much time in here, isn't it? And it's going to be crucial indeed. Van Von, who was on pole position not too long ago, all the way down in 7th now. Buns down in 9th position. Brabant, who is invalidated this time as well. Unfortunately, we've got Julian is 7/10 of a second improvement. Nameless is half a second improvement. And Chaz is also half a second improvement as well. Just watching Nameless at the moment. They're coming out the Ascari chicane, then flies past me, almost takes my moustache off. Now down into the parabolic on the Michele Alboreto, and I've got something stuck in my nose. Oh, that's not nice, is that? Into the Michele Alboreto turn as well from Nameless, and you can see that he has to keep it straight and true. Apparently, that's what the experts say across the line. And fifth fastest there for Nameless. This is going to be a very jumbled out grid, isn't it? I cannot wait. Julian across the line. Now, not his second fastest, but it's still not enough to displace Kieran, who's currently on pole position above there. Is Kieran going to be like the Vettel, who what Vettel used to be in the early 2010, and of course getting pole position, then sit in the pit lane? He currently is doing that at the moment. Is Kieran going to come out? He is still in the pit lane with 2 minutes to go in this qualifying session. Van Von is on pole position with 120 seconds to go. Markey in 8th position. Wow, that's an incredible lap for Van Von, who at the moment in this qualifying session has been the quickest drivers. And Brabant down in 19th position. It's a horror show for the Kick Sauber. That is going to be horrifying in terms of the constructors' bout as well. Hilton is up into 12th position now. Bunce is on another lap. My goodness gracious me. Nameless is crawling. I don't think anyone's on a quick lap. None there. They're all charging their batteries for one more throw of the dice there. So just watching Julian. So currently Van Von is on pole position. He's currently on pole position at the moment with just less than a minute to go in this qualifying session. I'm just keeping an eye and see who's going to be on a quick lap then with just a numerous one. Just less than a minute to go in this qualifying session. Beast has started. Let's go on board now with Ultimate Beast in the McLaren Mercedes. And look at how dry it's got in the last couple of minutes or so. That's incredible. Look at that. Both front tyres for the former silver champion. Gets it just about down to the speed limit there. There's no speed limit on an F1 track. It's that short. And now going through Curva Grande here for Ultimate Beast, and of course now powering up in to the Delia Roger chicane. First of the video split time is coming up in the top right hand side. Is 1500 of a second up for Beast there. Now corrects the car on the exit into the first of the 2 Lesbos as well. Lead in with me into the right hander as well. And look at that, just under or just over 100 miles an hour. Second Lesbo a little bit slower and just under 100 miles an hour this time as well. Using all of the exit curve nicely as well, which is very precarious in these conditions. They're at the yellow flags is fluttering for someone. Someone's gone off in sector 1 or turn 1. 60/100 a second down in the second split top. This is where you can really lose it or win it or lose it here. Then out the Ascari chicane there. And Ultimate Beast has done a good job then. Checker flag has fallen. Markey has finished. He's in 8th position. And I don't think that's a bad situation for Markey. I feel that he's going to be near the bottom half of the classification in this one. Oh, Beast taking too much curb there. As Delano up into 2nd position. As Sweet is out qualified. Delano has had a magnificent lap there, and he's on the front row of the grid. That is superb. Sweet out qualified. Brabant coming up to the line. Can Brabant improve? Yes! He's up into 4th position there. Really well done indeed for Brabant then. I got a Red Bull coming across the line then as Riley into 6th position. Nope, it's the other Red Bull. It's the Racing Bull up into 6th. And then he's on pole position then after the checker flag has fallen. What about, I think it is Sweet on pole position. It's the Crown on pole position there. Nameless is in 9th position. Van Von does not improve. He stays 2nd position on the grid then. And then we have got Sweet Buds is into 4th. No, listen, it's Julian into 4th position there. What about Kieran? Kieran then coming out the parabolic as well. He was on pole position not too long ago, and he's down in he's up in 5th position. Flipping is coming out the far trend, and the championship leader is down in 19th position, and that is 3rd position. That's a salvage operation if I ever seen one for Flippy, and I think that he'll be very happy at that. What an incredible end to qualifying, and I've forgotten he's on pole position there, which is not ideal, is it? I think it was Sweet Crown, wasn't it? Indeed it was. Sweet Crown, his first pole position of his career in ALR Grand Prix racing. Actually, no, his first pole position of the season. What about of his career, should I hear you ask? It is Hang on, where is he? I have to go down. It's his second pole position of his career for Sweet Crown. Absolutely good stuff indeed there. With Van Von, Flippy, Medis, Julian, Kieran, Bunce, Delano. What a qualifying for Delano. Start qualifying, then it's Bravitt and Beast and completes the top 10 in this qualifying session there. No formation lap, which means that I haven't gone through the grid, which is shocking stuff indeed, isn't it? Where am I? I don't know, to be honest. Sean, have you got the birds around you? Because I can hear them on stream. What birds? Oh no, we've lost Legend Set. Do you mean the flappy ones, or do you mean some other kind of birds? Because I can assure you, I haven't certainly got those other kind of birds, to be fair. I don't have any flappy birds either, to be honest. Is flappy birds still a thing? I do not know. I think I have a nosebleed, said Delano. Brilliant qualifying for Delano. Fantastic stuff indeed there. Richard, Julian, brilliant stuff indeed. Let's go, Wet Monza. Brilliant stuff indeed. Daniel as well in the comment section. Keep them coming in. Danny then, brilliant stuff. And here comes Julian Fan Club as well, as he had a very good qualifying session indeed. Right, let me read back all the comments there. Donington replaced the the Greece. Is it the Greek? It's Greece, isn't it? What I'm trying to say, isn't it, Katie? Well, thank you very much. It was supposed to be the Asian Grand Prix. Yes, indeed, because wasn't it, it was sponsored, it was all on the Benetton cars, wasn't it, in 1990 and 1991? But that never came to fruition. I don't think I ever seen the track, to be fair. Or did I? I don't know. I need to go. I'm going to have to go and research it in just a jiffy. Well, not now, am I? But when I go for my naps later on, then my parents, he stole them. Can you hear birds? Hang on. Have I got something being picked up here? I do not know. Potentially. Goodness me. Sean's avoided all my comments. I don't blame him. Right. Where was it? To be honest, hang on a minute. Yes, indeed. Yes. Well, very nice. Yes, indeed. Mushroom. Oh, fantastic. Do you live next to Donington, Mushroom? Apparently they're. Never mind. 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to be lights out here in the Italian Grand Prix. A fast and frantic qualifying and fast and frantic Grand Prix in front of us. And here we go then. It's a long run down into turn 1 then. And goodness gracious me then. And there are the position changes and go down. So when Sweet Crown takes the lead, Van Von on the inside, they're trying to barge the Ferrari out the way here. And there's a car scampering off. It's one of the Red Bulls that's scampering off there. And the other McLaren has gone through the polystyrene. So it is the Haas and the Ferrari going wheel to wheel then as we go down into turn 1 then. And a Sweet Crown will have the inside then. Van Von will try and go on the outside, but Sweet Crown has cut across into the Daniel Rogers chicane and keeps the lead there. Fantastic stuff indeed there as we go into the first 2 levels there. Flippy in 3rd position in front of his championship rival, Medi in 4th. Julian in 5th position with Beast in 6th. Up 4 positions, Beast is Barrel up 2 as well. With Delano in 9th, 8th position there. Nameless and Riley completes the top 10. Pease using his the famous Ferrari launch control. Whoa, contact then as Van Von and Sweet have come together going into the Ascari chicane here, and then coming down the back straight once again. Goodness gracious me, as now then Van Von leads. The Sweet Crown is not going to be too happy with that. As Flippy on the inside there in the parabolic or the Michele Alvaretto turn, and Sweet is now down into 3rd position. Terrible lap, the terrible start for the pole. Such a lap completed. The gap is 5 tenths of a second, and DRS will now be enabled at the end of this one there. Rev it all the way down into 20th position, so we all do slipstream and down into the big stop of turn 1. They all stopped it. They all have indeed that. We've got 4 drivers on the hard tyres, and they are legends. They are Karen, they are Van Von, and Marky also on the hard tyres as well. And we go into the Della Roger chicane now. Flippy's going to have to get the fence a bit because Sweet Crown is looking hungry for that 2nd position back then. As Legend is back in the session there, but unfortunately for Legend, he's going to lose an abundance amount of time. Buns, who's usually the higher echelons of the points down into 20, down in 7 to 12 at the moment as he's fighting with Kieran. Kieran on the inside, Bunce giving a bit of a nudge then. Kieran on the harder tyres, and in contact there was made between the two cars, and Kieran there is going to have to use the power of the Mercedes, and that Red Bull of Bunce there is absolutely steaming through into the Ascari chicane. And have they done it? Oh, we got a different camera angle. The Red Bull scampers off the circuit. My goodness gracious me, as Van Von has now got a bit of a gap now in the front there. A bit of breathing space out for the race leader. But Kieran has got no breathing space either, has he? As Bunce is trying to defend from Sweet 2, is all the way down in 14th position and not ideal at all. Back at the front then, Van Von, who's going to have the ball slipstream behind him now, isn't it? As we go down into turn number 1 there. The Ferrari in second position. Medi is going to have to get defensive there from Julian, as Julian and Medi are fighting for this there. Oh, and almost locking up there. Goodness me. Oh, that Red Bull feeling very wayward coming out of the first chicane there. And now through Curva Grande and back on board with Julian. As Sweet has passed Peace and up into 13th position. Peace down to 14th. Peace is down into 15th. Peace had a terrible run. And goodness gracious me, there are all kinds of anarchy going on to the Dally Roger chicane once again. On board with Peace. That is, he's down in 15th position. What's happened? Oh gosh, there's a big accident in the background. Revit there's having a horror show return here, and we got Legends there recovering, but I think Sebastian's also been in the wars as well in the Aston Martin. Has he got damage? I don't think he has, but Revit certainly lost at least one end plate there on the Ferrari. The Ascari chicane now once again, and once again we've got more slipstream, no DRS on the back straight. Sweet has got a 3-second penalty. This circuit is going to be this circuit will be claiming any drivers that are a bit lackadaisical when it comes to track limits. Van Von is doing superbly well. Van Von has got one Grand Prix win to his career so far, and he's on the hard tyres, which are supposedly the slower race tyre at the moment, but that is certainly not the case either. As a more slipstream going down into turn 1 there. In this day and age in the ground effect era, we could be seeing a lot of DRS trains in this Italian Grand Prix, which is quite surprising, because you would think it'd be the most easiest track to overtake on. Rev it into the pits for the Ferrari then, and this is a heartbreak for the Scuderia. The Euro Ferrari lost the pole position, is down in third position on there, as chasing the Aston Martin of Flippy, who in turn is chasing the Haas car of Van Von. On board with Flippy now, the championship leader, and he's trying to keep in tow with the Haas driver of Van Von. If he loses DRS, then he could be a sitting Aston with that Ferrari of Street all over his gearbox there. But at the moment for Flippy, he has a car buffer between himself and his championship rival Medi, who got the championship lead down to 26 points then. Albeit whatever happens here tonight then, so Flippy will still be the championship leader because he has more race wins than Flippy. However then, of course, Medi is still hunting the championship leader. It's still a lot to play for. We've got 5 rounds to go after this one. It's a bit more of a traditional kind of season, or a bit of a old school season with only 17 rounds this season compared to the usual 24 odd. KD then, I'll pay for those brake boards, gentlemen there. Of course, it all comes out of KD's budget, of course. It's all wavy and says that Serious Mushroom as well. As I was looking down there, and I was also trying to find where my slippers had gone. He made a break for freedom. On board now with Medi currently in 4th position. You see in the background there, who is in the background there? Oh, that was one of the, I don't know who it was actually, to be honest, but who was looking very interested, wasn't they? So the field is starting to get spread out now, of course, in this final stage of the ground effect era, before we go to the new regulations for next season, which is going to be very much a completely different formula, which will be very interesting indeed to see how the drivers transport, albeit it depends on the DLC and how much depth it goes into, which I don't think it's going to go into very much per myself. And look at this, and there's cars all over the show, just like earlier on. We heard Real Ashton say it's like the M5, M6 or something like that. Then I know it's just a road. Kieran now up into 11th position. Of course, Kieran would be hoping for a bit more because he was on pole position, wasn't he, in the latter stage of the qualifying session, but he is through, passes Riley and made his way up in to 10th position there, as a Bunce going up the inside of Riley as well. Bunce came from a long way back there, and Riley there I don't think was expecting that, was he? But even so, I think that he yielded nonetheless. Riley, I don't think wanted to cause too much fracas here. Sweet Crown is now dropped down to 4th position there, and I'm wondering if Sweet Crown may have had a bit more downforce on in qualifying after the wet conditions there, which is now starting to really come back to haunt him in this race there, because Sweet Crown has gone from pole position to 4th in the last 6 laps or so, back on board with Kieran, who I think is the championship leader in the event league. Is Kieran at the moment when he's driving the Kick Salver. Of course, he's never had a podium, has he, in gold, which I think is absolutely shocking stuff indeed, because Kieran is a very quick pedaler in Grand Prix racing, but I don't think he's had the luck of the green, the rub of the green, has he, so far? Brabbit in the 6th position, and Brabbit then is just have a look then in front of us. We can see that the car in front is the Mercedes car of Julian, and that is harvesting the Mercedes car on Monday. Go through Ascari, and sadly, my first memory of Ascari is when David Coulthard binned it on the formation lap at the Italian Grand Prix of 1995. Which has never been a happy memory, especially as I was a super Coulthard fan for some unknown reason. I don't know why. Probably because I don't know. I should have been a Damon Hill fan, really, should have. But for some reason, I like David Coulthard's crash out before. Sean, do you remember when I lost the win on the final lap of the final corner to Sam Swift? To be honest, don't worry about that, Indigo. A lot of drivers have had that issue with Sam Swift, of course. But was that here? Was that? Oh well, went from P17 to P2. Oh yes, the performance of the season a few seasons ago there for Indigo. Good to see Emerson at his normal position, says Sam. Then where is Emerson? Oh, he's 16th at the moment. Of course, Emerson's 16 and all that kind of stuff. Right, so goodness me. Let's not get into too much dangerous territory now. Are we going to get rain in this race? Because it looks very dark over yonder, doesn't it? I don't even know yonder exists in Italy. Goodness me, but I think Milan's that way, isn't it? I don't really know my geography. I don't know how I passed my geography, to be honest, but I think it's got a really pretty teacher. That's the reason I went. Right, as we go into the Ascari chicane once again, of course, take school seriously. Going into the Ascari chicane once again, Julian is now all over the back as Bunce got a 3-second penalty. And after 7 laps, I was expecting a lot more penalties so far, but only 2 drivers have got penalty at this moment in time. Medi is 2.5 seconds away from Flippy and Van Vom. That's a massive gap to make up for Medi, isn't it? Goodness me, I feel that Medi's going to have to really get his toe down now if he wants to catch up to the back of his championship rival, and in turn keep Sweet Crown behind as well. So he's got to be doing 2 things, attack and defence there. My word then. Which is why I can never be an F1 driver, because I can't do 2 things at once, but that's kind of a typical bloke. Into the first chicane once again there. Kieran locking up both front tyres out, and he's on the hard tyre, Kieran is there. And Kieran is now going to start to make some headway in this Grand Prix. Bunce is making some headway as well. To 10 minutes is Bunce now. Delano doing a great qualifying job, and in the race there, he's just starting to struggle ever so slightly. Dropping down into 9 minutes now. Bunce there checking. That's what's happened. We've got problems there. Chaz is off in the first chicane. And we've got it as Delano is down in 7th position. What's happened to Chaz? Chaz is recovering now, but that's not ideal, is it? Back in this battle here then between 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th there. Then we've got another train then, which is behind Nameless, which is Bunt, Delano, followed by Kieran, followed by Markey, followed by Riley as well in the mid-pack there. I've got to say the super subs from Silver doing a great job out there tonight. Superb stuff indeed. On board with Kieran once again then, who seems to be in the thick of the action in this Italian Grand Prix. Oh, Sweet's had an issue, and Sweet is now down into 5th position. It's a horror show there. Yeah, you still think Wales is abroad, said Serious Mushroom. It is abroad. That is my claim to fame. That's the only different country I've been to is Wales. And also went to Torquay as well, which is on the French Riviera. Into the pits comes Delano. Sweet Crown has lost 2 positions in the matter of the last 2 straights, unfortunately. And the pole sitter is really struggling out there now, isn't he? I'm wondering if the Ferrari team has set Sweet Crown out for rain later on in this race as well, because it looks very grey out here. I think we've come to a very unseasonal wet Italian Grand Prix. Albeit though, if anyone remembers the 2008 Italian Grand Prix, where a young man by the name of Sebastian Vettel announced his name on the world stage. Chazza out of the Grand Prix, and I think that there must have been some terminal damage to the Williams drive, but Chazza unfortunately, out of the Italian Grand Prix, unfortunately. The young Sebastian Vettel, and of course, marked his first race win here in the 2008 Italian Grand Prix in of course, the Toro Rosso. Incredible 17, which of course has the DNA of the Minardi team, which is in Faenza, which is the team base and superb 17. Van Vorden is now starting to stretch away from Flippy. So Flippy then, Flippy is a racer, isn't he? But I'm wondering though if Flippy may settle for second position, as yellow flag is for Chaz's car, who is retired, unfortunately. Nameless, and to me, that as into the pits there comes a Sweet Crown. No 10-second penalties yet. Fantastic stuff. I was expecting penalties. I was expecting 10-second penalties and all kinds of malarkey. On board with Bunsen, who is looks like he's trying to get out of slipstream now, isn't he? I'm wondering if Bunsen's car is overheating ever so slightly. Go to Redditch, the Vegas of England. Is that true? Because I'd love to go to Vegas, but I didn't know. I'll have a look. I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know where Redditch is. I don't even know this thing. Button Center currently in 8th position, but as Marky, where is he? Well, I thought you were side by side with Kieran, but unfortunately not then, as Kieran is currently in 9th position there. No, 8th position. I only got a 10-second penalty for. I only get 10-second penalties for speeding in the pit lane, and Monza says, obviously. Don't worry, Luca Bader also got a lot of speed and fines on his return to Formula One back in the European Grand Prix of 2009. Poor Luca Bader. He was thrown from the hot pan into the fire, so to speak, wasn't he, when he returned to Formula One in 2009. After Massa, of course, got that horrific injury in the Hungarian Grand Prix, and then just to show how bad that Ferrari was. Well, I don't think it was a bad car, but it's so difficult to drive. And then Fisichella drove that second Ferrari for the remainder of the season and didn't score any points. Bunce is now in second position there, and Bunce is the one of only a few drivers from the top echelons of the points there that is not coming to the pits there. Kieran has not got past going down to turn 1 and 2. Why not come to the Vegas GP, says KD. I'll probably get kicked out for being a drunken monkey. Sweet! Not quite then into turn 1, but Mehdi is parked the car on the apex of the chicane. But I think that Sweet is going to have the momentum. He has the advantage. Does he have the high ground? He's going for it. He's having a look there, but Mehdi then needs to stay in front of him. There's Flippy, who has already been in the pits, and the gap is at the 4 seconds. Alpine once again have failed Mehdi in the pit stop. So I think that Mehdi's going to have an urgent word with the sporting director from Alpine, because once again Alpine have not been very good in the pit stops, and once again the Aston Martin have triumphed their championship rivals. And again, that's another couple of seconds lost there in the pit stops for Mehdi. So Mehdi is going to be very disappointed indeed then. His push bike doesn't float then. I have you know, I watch Top Gear, so I've got inflatables on my push bike. However, I'm not cycling across the. Is it the Atlantic, or is it the Red Sea? I do not know. I think the Red Sea somewhere in China, in Turkey, I believe. But oh my word, then I'm not doing myself any favours in these geography to speak, am I? Into the pits now comes Bunsen, lap 12. Question I've got is, can the hard tyres go to the end now? In terms of strategical elements of this race, I feel it's a straightforward one stop. If you have anything more than a one stop around here, you lose so much time coming to the pits there, because it's this circuit is very much flat out for most of the lap there. And whilst you're stuck at the pit lane speed limiter, Sweet's got the fast lap of the race, that's Sweet MJP. Then of course you're in the pit lane and you're limited to the pit lane speed limiter. Van Vorden leads by 15.5 seconds there from Kieran in second. Third is Markey, Legends in fourth position. The drivers have started on the hard tyres and now in the top 4 places on the of the field then. Flippy is now going to have to get through past the traffic there, but Flippy has got a lovely bit of breathing space now between himself and Medi. The gap is 4 seconds. There's Medi in 6th moment. The Sweet Crown in 7th. Delano's got a 3-second penalty, unfortunately, so he's in the Hall of Shame now. Julian in 8th position there with Brabbit in 9th. Ultimate Beast in 10th position. 11th is Nameless, and there's a gap of about 5.5 seconds there. So Nameless is going to be punching a big old hole in the air, and Delano's going to be driving through it beautifully indeed. However, the unfortunate thing for Delano is that he is going to have the dirty air from the back of that Red Bull, which has caused him to get a 3-second penalty. I have no doubt about that. And here comes Everton as well, who is down in 16th position. Everton, I should say, goodness me. He's not the legendary Brett Everton from, was he played for Blackburn, didn't he, or something like that. Not if you're Alex, just speed. Exactly. Oh, Julian has got past Sweet. Sweet is really struggling, isn't he? I'm not sure if he's lacking, if he's got a problem in that Ferrari, or if they're just lacking downforce there. But the Ferrari is just going backwards tonight. The other Ferrari, unfortunately, been in a couple of scrapes, and so the Tifosi are not going to be very happy at this result at this moment in time. And once again, look at that big black rain cloud over the top of Sweet Crown's head here. And I think the drivers maybe feeling a bit nervous about that. I'm wondering if the top 4 are waiting to see if that rain cloud bursts there, and we might get a spring to the wet stuff. Remember, we had a horrific downpour in qualifying. One of the best qualifyings of the season so far, as Legends has lost out to Flippy, who's now back up in the 4th position. We had one of the best qualifying sessions earlier on in this show. Of course, brilliant qualifying it was indeed. It was a very wet qualifying. I wonder if we're going to have a wet end to this Grand Prix. Brabbit there using the slipstream out of that Ferrari, as Sweet is already almost out of DRS range of Julian there, but he has got a good turn of speed there in the non-DRS zone going into the Parabolica for Sweet, but he's really struggling now. He's lost another 10th of a second in the Parabolica, so something is going wrong with that Ferrari, and unfortunately for Sweet there, look at this, look at how much speed this Brabbit is gaining here. I think the Brabbit there, he's going to be disappointed to be so far down the field in 9th position, and of course we're going 5 rounds after tonight though, which I think is about 130 odd points up for grabs there. It's starting to become a bit of a there's a bit of a clonk between Delano and between Bunce there. Of course, 2 drivers who got penalties, unfortunately. However, they're not too they're not too worried there, because they're enjoying their racing by the looks of things. Marky has driven it to the back of Kieran now, and that's going to be an interesting development between the Alpine and the Mercedes McLaren of Kieran. The gap in the front is now up to 17.3 seconds. Flippy is about a further 3 seconds back, and the gap is about 21 seconds at this moment in time. And going through the Ascari chicane once again for Marky, and back on the loud pedal, and we go down into the Parabolica once again. I'm just seeing that the Haas mechanics are not in the pits just yet, so these drivers are carrying on then. How long can the medium tyres last? I do not know. I should have probably done my homework. Riley's got another 3-second penalty, unfortunately for his troubles there. But as it stands there for Riley, I think that he might be hoping for a safety car or something to get himself back into the points. But as it stands at the moment, that is not going to be the case then. Knowlesy, your turn to hit Styles. I think, didn't Knowlesy hit Styles last week in the Dutch Grand Prix? Shocking stuff. Indeed. Brabbit's through, passes Sweden up into 9th position. 8th position, Sean. 8th position. Bunce has got past his teammate. The 2 Red Bulls there have been slipstreaming each other, darted in, darted out of each other, slipstream that is, as Legend jumped down to the 7th position now, but Legend's got a lot of speed there, but I think he thinks better of it there, going into the Dali Roger chicane. What's that? Well, I think that was the Alpine locking up there, was it, of Medi, who has now got the gap to just over 3 seconds. You see Flippy, and now here comes Medi, so Medi is now starting to home in onto the back of his championship rival. There he is in the foreground. So let's see what Flippy can do then. But at the moment, they're just on board with Marky, and Marky is going to have to look at his wing mirrors later on, because, well, later on, I said, in the next couple of turns or so, because he's going to see the championship leader. Julian's got a 3-second penalty, which is going to help his rivals in the background, the likes of Brabbit, the likes of Sweet Crown, and maybe even Ultimate Beast is going to join the party as well. Into the pits there comes the race leader of Van Bon then. So Van Bon is into the pits now. Haas Mechanics onto the medium compound tyres there. Where's it going going to come out then. Marquis is going to stay out and is going to take the lead. Look, Van Von is only coming out of the pits now, and I think that Van Von has done a splendid job on those on those hard tyres, and now he's going to be quicker than a hiccup. Going and then comes down into turn one. Look at that, he's in front of Brabbit. Bunches at the pass out of the race there. And now we got Brabbit, Sweet, and Ultimate Beast as well, all getting past Legends there. Van Von is in a superb fit position. This is best result of his season so far. Kieran also in the pits well, down in 18th position. Van Von has drove a superlative race so far, and as Mushroom wants out a key, he's hoping for rain as Van Von is now catching up to the back of Julian now. Of course, Julian does have a 3-second penalty, unfortunately, for his troubles. Marquis has just let Flippy through there, as Marquis is not Flippy's fight there, which is why I think he let him through. Because to be honest, I think Marquis is only concerned about his fight with Kieran, which has become a bit of a doozy, isn't it, there? And now I think that having said that, I think that Medi is going to be a bit unhappy with Marquis there, because the two Alpine teammates there, I thought they would have helped each other out. So that could be interesting to see how that one transpires. Van Von is through and passes Julian, and now up to 4th position. Van Von could be on course for a podium. It's not going to be his first podium of the season. I'll have to get my own book out in a minute to have a look. But he is flying at the moment. Van Von then using alternative strategy, I think, is never the ideal one. But Van Von is driving superbly well, and I think it's going to be a major factor in the outcome of this Italian Grand Prix. Incredible stuff indeed there. Sweet there is Sweet Crown still in front of Ultimate Beast, and Ronnie has got past Legends there, who is also in the pits as well. So the only alternative strategy which is working out so far, as goodness gracious me, Peas up the inside there and almost off the circuit. Peas is always exciting, going for overtakes there, and goodness gracious me, and almost off the circuit. Well, he was off the circuit there, was Peas. Was he? It's Delano trying to go on the outside there. Peas cutting on the grass there, going into turn one, and now then there's Kerber Grande here. Delano getting defensive, and this is getting very hair and scare. A big old rocket, that's going to be a flat stop on Delano, as he is, goodness me, he's racing a shopping trolley out of the Della Roger chicane. Peas having a sniff, but nothing more than that then. My goodness gracious me. And now we've also got Hilton also in the facility as well. Of course, wherever there's carnage, Hilton follows. As Marquis is now dropped behind there. It's look left, no, look right, that's Kieran. And so Marquis lost down 2 positions there. And now that Everson is going to have to yield here. He does yield there into the Oscara chicane. And Kieran on a very fresh set of medium tyres there. Marquis lost out more, but he's coming into the pits now. As I'm keeping an eye on this battle as well as what's going on the circuit. I'm not doing a very good job there, because there's a bit of overtaking up at the front there. But as goodness me, as Pete's looking in his wing mirrors, I think it's in a papaya nose cone of Kieran, getting very close there. And then back on board with Kieran once again, and he is sniff-shooting there. But goodness me, I think that Pete's opened his DRS there a bit, and opened it and closed it, going down to the chicane there. Pete's is through. Kieran going on the outside there. He's going to have much better braking opportunities in the Haas car, being on the new medium tyres. And in the background, we've got the Aston Martin and Savasta fighting with Sweet there. Now here comes Kieran then, and I think the Peas is not going to be able to defend this one too much then, as but Peas has parked himself, and Kieran going this way and that way on the outside, but Peas there is not giving up, is he? Peas is on the outer echelons of the points here, and potentially could get some points for his team, so he's going to be fighting tooth and nail in this one, and the longer he keeps Kieran behind, the more likely he's going to be able to catch up with him later on in this one. Cass has caught everyone, he will be gone. He has, I think he's already a second and a back pick. Kieran, oh my goodness me, I swallowed my tongue. Kieran is through. Peace is out to yield. He does yield. Dylan got a 3-second penalty, unfortunately, as Emerson has lost 2 positions in the frat car in the background. Kieran up to 11th position. Peace down to 12. Delano in the superb 13th position there, as but unfortunately for Delano, I think those penalties are going to come back to bite him on the you-know-what. Well, that was intense, wasn't it, to say the least? Good heavens above. As now we got Medi, who I don't think is going to be too concerned with Julian there, but I think the one Medi will be concerned by. Well, I haven't said that he is catching on Flippy. As my goodness, we've got more action there. As now Pease is back past Kieran and is back into 11th for this. But Kieran is going to have the traction now coming into Curva Grande. But Pease is not having any of it. This is great racing between the two drivers there. As Pease cuts across the McLaren. So Kieran is going to go on the outside, but Pease parks it right where he needs to be. I must say that's great defensive. A very big IQ there from Pease to keep Kieran at bay there. But Kieran is going to get very frustrated. He's using a lot of life out of these tyres there, isn't he? By trying to pass the Haas car. And I think that Kieran thought that it might have been a slam dunk, but it certainly hasn't been, has it? As Kieran there is going to get very frustrated indeed. And back on board once again with Kieran there. Mark in the background is in DRS. Oh, there he is. There's Mark in the background there. Of course, Marky and Kieran had a bit of an incredible battle earlier on in this race. Mehdi has lost out to Julian. Julian is through, and I'm in the third position. Unfortunately for Julian, does have a 3-second penalty. So Julian is going to have to scamper off and get 3 seconds up the road into the parabolic once again. And these are not for points. I think it's about pride than anything else, isn't it? Great Scott. Now I have watched Back to the Future. And Kieran is now coming once again, and he's going to have to go right or left. He does go left, and Pease is going to have to admit defeat, is he? I think this time he is. Great racing. Oh, Kieran's overshot! Kieran's overshot then, and now Pease is back on the outside, and that is frustration for Kieran, isn't it? Goodness gracious me, but also as well as he gets good screen time, doesn't he? Back on board with Pease once again, and of course using the slipstream now, he's going to dive on the inside there. I think Pease thinks better of it there into the Dahlia Rogers chicane there. Of course that's going to be very tight and cozy in that chicane there, so I think he thinks better of it there. Sweet also keeping a watch, brief follow with Markey and Sebastian as well. Legends about 4.5 seconds back. Emerson has come back in the pits and has done a second stop there, so I think that Ava Emerson's tyres have been completely shot, or he was I don't know, to be honest. I think something's gone wrong with Emerson. Pease got a 3-second penalty, unfortunately though, as so that is going to hang strong in his chance for in his quest for getting in front of Kieran. As Mark having a look then going down into turn 1. Bunce has got past Ultimate Beast into turn 1, well before turn 1 there. So a track position there for Bunce there, up into second position there. Ultimate Beast does know that the Red Bull driver does have a 3-second penalty, which will hopefully help him out later on in this one. On board with Mehdi once again, and it's still very overcast here, but it looks like the threat of rain is abating ever so slightly as the race goes on. We do see flash of the sunshine in this one, don't we? But yeah, the rain is definitely, the threat of rain is abating then. Marky, who is also trying to get past Sweet here, but I think it's too far back. The was gap at the front is less than a second out. There was Van Gogh. There they come down, approaching me. So Flippy leads the championship then, and at the moment, and the gap is 26 points there. It is it's not a comfortable margin because that is one non-points finish. Mehdi winning the race then, which means that Mehdi would be equal on points with Flippy. So it's not comfortable by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm wondering what Flippy is going to be thinking here then. Is Flippy going to be thinking that he's going to defend for all he's worth, or is he thinking that let Van Von go, and then Van Von's tyres may fall away and Flippy may come back at him there later on in this race. And Mehdi back in front of Julian in the battle for the final podium spot then. Julian is going to try and pressure Mehdi to see if he can get a penalty, which then mean that it's as it is then it's all fair, of course, with both drivers getting penalties. But of course that will also help Brabbit get involved in this battle as well. Brabbit is in no Brabbit's land at the moment. He's down in 5th position there, but I think it's a good recovery drive from Brabbit. But I feel that it's becoming a bigger ask as each week goes by that Brabbit is not outscoring his championship protagonist there. Of course, Brabbit missed 2 races earlier on in this season, and of course, no fault of his own. That was he was training for his new role, of course, which is barely more important than the Grand Prix racing in ALR. Barely. Of course, but of course, I jest. As Marky it's still in this Congalad mode, which Kieran has not scampered off at all, and I'm wondering if he's burned through his tyres, you know. And because he's burned through his tyres, I'm wondering if Kieran is now starting to really struggle, because that fight with himself and Peace is great to the team entertainment. However, but Kieran is now unable to get away. However, I haven't said that they are less than 2 seconds away from from Riley now. So Riley has also got a penalty as well. Here comes Van Bon then. Van Bon is going for the lead in the Italian Grand Prix. Side by side. Flippy locks the outside wheel there. And now, when Flippy's been forced off as Van Bon takes the lead. Of course, he's never shy, is he, of Van Bonham showing the wheel. And he takes the lead of the Italian Grand Prix, just like Mushroom said a few moments ago. And Van Bon leads them with just a handful of laps to go. So, Flippy, that's a big lockup for the Aston Martin driver. And that is surely going to resemble a 50 pence piece, unfortunately, on the Flippy's tyres there. And it's going to be very much, if Flippy had any fillings there, they're going to be rattling, aren't they, as Martin Brundle used to say on the old F1 games. I don't think anyone has fillings anymore, do they? I think that's very much a 90s thing these days, isn't it? I think Cyrus Mushroom should know about that, of course, as he's a very young Mushroom, isn't he? Watching Sweet, who is Sweet Crown, as I said, there's a lot of sweets in this Grand Prix, isn't there? Fun fact, short reflection, missed a race last night. That means I'm back as the top appearance charts. To be honest, though, Serious Mushroom, having said that, Reflections also missed another race earlier on in the event. So you was already topped on. Put it in your stats. I think that I'm sure Reflections missed a race earlier on in the event league. It was round 6 or 7, I think, because annoyingly, both Vessier and Reflection have got the same amount of starts in the event league, which always trips me up because I keep thinking that I've copied and pasted the wrong cell. So yes, Reflection and Vessier both missed the same Grand Prix earlier on the season in the event league. I can't remember which one it was. I'll have a look in my old book at the end of this one. So, lap 24 out of 27 then. Van Bon leads and is now out of DRS range. Can Flippy get back in DRS range? We'll keep it on that. We'll check it. Oh, that's another lockup. There's a lot of lockups on these tyres now, as the drivers are really putting these tyres to work. And I feel that not treating them with tender loving care is going to really hurt them in the next couple of laps or so. As Revit is into the pit cycle, Revit's 100% podium record is unfortunately coming to an end, which is such a shame. That, of course, made his debut in Australia, getting a second position, also in the Ferrari as well. But unfortunately for Revit there, he has had a nightmare race and down in 19th position. I don't think his race got going anyway, to be honest. He also had a difficult qualifying. Better have been a good reason. Absolutely. I don't know what the reason was, I'm not privy to driver's absence reasons. To be honest, I'm quite a hard man to please. As Julian has got past Medi on the back start-finish straight on with 3 laps to go in this race. Van Bon leads this Grand Prix. Flippy is going after now Strike because these laps are going down quite quickly at this one. And goodness me, we've only been on air for an hour in this on this stream. Goodness me, this is going to be a short stream indeed. Kieran then on course to get some points here, but I feel that and he's also him and Pease have produced one of the battles of the race there. Superb indeed. Riley, I think, is going to be feeling a sinking feeling now, as Pease there is also fighting with the Kick Sauber in the background. There's debris off of one of the Alpine cars. That's Markey, who's lost his front wing. Unfortunately, I'm thinking that was on the back of Pease or Sweet there. I think he drove into the back of him, unfortunately, as I wonder if Markey... Yellow flag there for Emerson. As I'm wondering if, as a piece at the inside, we'll talk about Mark in a bit there. He's staying on the inside as the kicks out. That's bad camera work there. And look, Marky's also in the facility as well. And they're fighting for position here then. As goodness gracious me, wheel-to-wheel stuff. Sweeter stays in front of the Haas car. My goodness gracious me, Pease is at war with everyone here. Fantastic, I love it. And now then, here comes Marky. He is flying. Oh my goodness me. And that is in a different postcode. Marky has just flown by the both of them. I wonder if that was a bit of rage on Marky's part there in terms of getting damage on the front wing. And Marky flying past, but I feel that now the battery has been depleted and Marky may be a sitting duck. Ultimate Beast has passed Sweet Crown and down into, I think it's turn 1. They're getting very cozy there. Marky's understeer is very real indeed then. There it is then, Sweet down in 8th position. It's been a difficult race for the pole sitter, unfortunately. Back across the line once again. And Delana's got a 3-second penalty. Here comes Sweet then. Marky has run out of deployment there. As Kieran has not got past Riley. Oh, Sweet locking up there. That's the inside then, but Pease trying to go on the inside of Marky as well. But no dice, unfortunately. front wing plate is missing. It's fine here. Told ya. Is it? My goodness me, that search question there. He's not only a quick driver, he's also a scholar in aerodynamics as well. We'll call him Adrian Mushroom, I think, will be incredible stuff. Well, maybe not this season actually, because Adrian knew his Aston Martin is not looking too fruitful at the moment, is it? Let's see how it goes in the Japanese Grand Prix this weekend. And it's a normal race as well. Fantastic, isn't it? None of the sprint stuff. Right, modern Formula One fans, and here comes the final lap. Here comes Flippy. Oh, there's a car coming out on circuit. Oh my goodness me! And there's three abreast in the two of them. One of the cars not in and there's contact between the two cars. And Flippy and Van Von are getting very cozy. Van Von cuts across the championship leader. Flippy is going to Curva Grande. And once again, then it's getting very hair and scare. Oh my goodness me! And he's very close into the Curva Grande here and into the Dallas Rogers and Kane locking up. Van Von there keeps their cuts across, and Flippy is going to be furious, I think, with that. And Van Von there, who is very much there, defended for all his might in this one. And on one of the medium tyres have really fallen off a cliff here. Savasta and Pease is also getting very cosy in the first sector as well. Flippy, I'm wondering if Flippy may think better off it. Having said that, he's got DRS. I wonder if he's got any more battery left then going down to the Parabolica. Medi currently in third position at the moment there. Yellow flag then. What's happened now? I think it's at the Parabolica. As Emerson go for one more bite to the cherry for that fast up then. And Van Von then has repelled the attack of Flippy. I think Flippy only had one chance there. But unfortunately, it got very dicey, didn't it? As they come out of the Michele Alboreto curve, and Van Von wins his second Grand Prix of his career. He wins the Italian Grand Prix. And on the alternative strategy as well, that is a fantastic result for Van Von. That's really mega stuff indeed then. I think that's absolutely splendid stuff for Van Von there. Really well done indeed then. But the query I've got then was Van Von a bit over-aggressive with his defence there. I'm not sure. I'll let you guys in the comments there tell me yay or nay then, because I'm just a ginger guy sat on me poof in a treehouse. Van Von, though, wins his second Grand Prix of his career, and I think that this was probably better than his first Grand Prix win for Van Von as well, because he went for the alternative strategy. Only three other drivers went for the alternative strategy, but Van Von made it work to spectacular fashion there, and he wins his second race of his career, does Van Von, and he's going to be punching the air with delight, and the Haas team are going to be overjoyed with this result as well. So brilliant stuff indeed there for Van Von, his second race win of his career, but I think it's his best race win of his career as well. Fantastic stuff indeed there for Van Von. Whew, well, that was exciting, wasn't it? Goodness me. Fast and frantic action here in Italy. Of course, we got more fast and frantic action coming up tomorrow and Wednesday as well. Van Von is second win of his career, and then we got Flippy in second position by half a second between the top two. Medi in third position. He's lost 3 points in the championship, which means the gap is now to 27, 28, 29 points, give or take. Fourth position is Brabant. Great recovery from Brabant in the end there, but once again losing points out to his championship rivals. Julian in fifth position with Bunce in sixth position. I think Bunce will be out for that after a horror show start. Ultimate Beast in seventh. Sweet Crown pole position down into eighth there. Either a strategical, either a setup error or something's gone majorly wrong there with Sweet Crown, with Sweet Crown's car. Ninth is Nameless, and Kieran brings the final point in 10th position. Mark in 11th position with Riley in 12th. Sweet in 13th. 14th is Savasta with Peas in 15th. Legend 16th. Revic gets the fastest up and 17th position. Emerson 18th. Delano in 19th and 20th position. And the only retirement in this Grand Prix is Chazza there. And once again, the retirement rate today at our Grand Prix racing is very low, isn't it? Fantastic indeed then. Whether that'll be the same next season remains to be seen, of course, with all the new regulations and all that kind of stuff there. And I've got Medi in the comms box with me now. And Medi, third position today then, but I think it's a very hard fought third position between yourself and Julian there. It looked very interesting from my viewpoint.
Yeah, it was so interesting, but in the first few laps of the race, I was so unlucky with managing my battery. I had to spend so much battery to pass one car, and after that, I just lost the DRS to the hard runner in front. The has he was on hard, so after lap three it was just his race. After that, Flippy could use that. Also, I think like Flippy was much quicker than me today. Uh, I I think the best I could do today was P3.
And yeah, we'll talk about that a bit more because the gap was 4 seconds. You did get it down by quite a number of seconds. I think it got down to 1 second there or thereabouts. But you mentioned then about just losing the DRS, and was is that important around this Italian Grand Prix circuit?
Actually, in this track, the gaps doesn't matter. The important thing is like how much battery you got in your car. I mean, like in some points of the race, you maybe you can see the gap as like low as 2 seconds, but when I have zero battery, it's mean nothing. Like in next three lap, I'm gonna lose it all. Also, in the second stint, I just finished my race with 80% tire wear. I was in a puncture territory, so like in last 5 laps of the race, I didn't care about P1 and P2. I was just trying to bring the car to the end.
Is that at the stage of the season we're at now? Is more about getting points on the getting points on the board and just getting to the end of the race? Is that the stage of the season right now? And this is potentially points that is going to be gained rather than points lost.
Actually, like from this track and to the end, I think it's gonna be so hard for me because from these I have no experience in none of the tracks remaining in the calendar. So maybe I should just give up on the championship and try to keep P2 there. But anyway, like podium is good for me, and I think like it was the most I could get. So I'm not that sad to be on P3.
We do have a mystery Grand Prix next week. Do you think that's going to help or hinder you? Because you did mention the potentially the track's code that you haven't got much experience in. Do you think with a mystery Grand Prix that might actually help you in terms of the drive? Or most of the other drivers going to be in the same boat as yourself.
Actually, it's not gonna help at all. First of all, I'm so bad when I don't know the track, and after that, in both of the tracks, I have no experience. Even like I haven't done one lap in TT, so it's gonna be much hard for me from next week. But anyway, we're gonna see what's happening.
Thank you very much, today, Mehdi. Great job on getting third position. A very hard fought race. Fantastic indeed. And Flippy, you finished second today. I was saying half about towards the end of that Grand Prix that potentially you'd be happy with second. But as a race winner like yourself, and I'm sure that you'd rather have the win, surely.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But I mean, today's race was good. I didn't expect me to jump from like 18 to like third in qualifying because I kind of messed up my. I only did a good first and last run in wet quali, so that was a positive. And I think the race itself was good. I managed to overtake Sweet quite early in the race, and yeah, got the strategy right, but just didn't have enough pace at the end. Yeah.
And it did get it got a bit cozy in the end there between yourself and Van Vonn in the battle for the Grand Prix lead. Then, what was your take on that? Do you think that was hard but fair racing, or do you feel that that was a bit over the line?
Um, I'll leave that to the shippers to decide, Sean.
I'm such a stirrer, and I. And going back to the race itself, we heard Mehdi saying that his tires were on 80%. Then, how was your tire wear like then? And was it a bit of a just a managing the tires towards the end of the race then, and you couldn't push any further?
I mean, like, I think my tire was good at the start of the second stint on hards, and because I saw Mandy Gates started gaining before Van Zo'n box, so I had to push a bit more, and I think I was on like I didn't even check at the end, but I'm pretty sure I was in the puncture ranges as well, like 80s four, something like that. If I didn't have to push that much to keep Medi from gaining, I think I would have been able to stay within the non-puncture ranges. But yeah, it turned out like better than because when I started practicing this week, I was nowhere near one stop. So it's just yeah, it's good to see like changing setup and changing approaches to race to driving helped a lot with tire wear. So that's a positive as well for this race.
And one of the factors in this race, potentially, is what Mehdi mentioned, was getting past Sweets earlier on this race and then kind of breaking away. Do you feel that that's what helped you in this race today? Because you did have a good gap back to Mehdi in the first stage of the race. And do you feel that helped you and was just able to focus on getting that podium and maybe even the win today?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Getting past Sweet was, I think, because it broke the DRS train really early, and that's really, really crucial around Monza, of course, because of the long straights. And yeah, that is the deciding factor between like being one train at the end or being like two trains and just me and Van Zon for the fighting for the race win. But yeah, I probably should have, thinking back, like as I got dropped at the very end in DRS on a medium stint. I think I had the pace to stick with Van Zon on mediums, but I just kind of was saving battery and hoping like Van Zon would have the pace to cap me. But well, looking back, it's always something to learn after each race, so that's, I guess, a good thing as well.
And then let's finish on the championship as well. You've gapped your championship rival Mehdi by another 3 points. And of course, you've outscored Brabbit as well with just 5 rounds to go. Then you start. Can you get a bit excited about this? Can you get a bit excited about potential one hand on the trophy, or is 5 races anything could happen still?
Yeah, anything can happen, of course. Like, uh, yeah, last season with Immortal, as I always say, and Sam, anything can happen in this grid with this caliber of drivers being so close together, and one mistake can basically destroy your whole race. So I'm just trying to approach look at the races one race at a time, and just trying to limit my mistakes and make the best on track decisions as possible.
And of course, you did have a bounce back as well after a very difficult Dutch Grand Prix where you finished fifth in the end. Coming into this race, did you put more pressure on yourself to get yourself back on the podium, or how did you approach this race tonight?
My it was a really kind of weird and long week trying to figure out why my wheel kept disconnecting, but it turns out it was just me being silly and not knowing that the PC mode on the wheelbase is the red thing. So I turned out my wheel was like a couple of versions out of date, and I updated that, and that helped a lot with the disconnection issue. I don't think it's going to happen anymore. So that's a really, really big positive for myself, so I can stop worrying mid race about the wheel disconnecting and stuff. So yeah, hopefully next week I'll be back on the podium and hopefully the race win. And I think it's Will Spin Grand Prix next week with Baku, Kota, and Singapore. I think,
Well, you've done your homework. I certainly haven't.
yeah. I'm not sure. I think so. Yeah, but hopefully I don't know. I think I just don't mind Singapore because it's one of my worst track on the calendar. But yeah, Baku is one of my better strikes. Obviously, with last season's photo thingy finish with me and Sam separated by like a couple hundreds or thousands even. But yeah, Baku is always a good track for racing and Kota as well. So hopefully it's one of those two.
And we cannot wait. Thank you very much today, Flippy. Great job on the podium. And Flippy is now extended in the Drivers' Championship. Tomorrow night is silver. And of course, we return to the Temple of Speed then. And what's interesting with silver is that there's three constructors within a point of each other at the top of the constructors. I cannot wait to talk about that. But that is tomorrow night. Been a great race today then. Van Von getting his second Grand Prix win of his career. And potentially, I think, one of his more impressive ones as well. Fantastic stuff. I'll see you tomorrow night.